So, hi, Woodland Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with
And I'm Stephen Christian from Anchor Braille and Amberlin.
there's some questions today about his upcoming album, New Mexico. So, congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Yeah, so far so good. I think it's only going to get better from here. I think people are kind of easing into the new sound, but I think so far, I mean, to be honest, it's like it's a passion project, and it's something I'm very I'm infatuated with this record. So it's just one of those things that I truly believe when I look back at the discography of my own life, this will be a highlight.
Oh,
That's
that's so
super awesome
sweet.
to
I
hear.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got to jam the record ahead of the interview, and
Mhm.
Nice.
it's super dope. I love how dynamic it
Really?
is. You
Man,
cover
that's
you
rad.
cover a wide gambit, and I really appreciate that.
Damn straight. Yeah.
That's amazing, Glory. And thanks, Shane. It was one of those, I don't know if it's going to work. I've never heard anything like that. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm so arty and no one's ever thought of this. I'm just saying like, it was just so much fun to create. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of times when you're in the studio, you're so conscious. You're conscious about your label. You're conscious about the fans. You're conscious about
Mhm.
the band, and all of that kind of like dissolves or dilutes, the passion. And
Absolutely.
this record was so much fun to create. There were times that we just like had to stop and just like compose ourselves because I just felt like we were having too much fun. And I think it really shows in there. We do, like I've never thought to do mariachi or
Mhm.
have an actress come on and speak Spanish, or this is really funny, but probably one of the funniest things. I heard a story about how like Bob Dylan and all these other artists, they whistled on their records, and I was like, that's so crazy. I never thought like to take a whistle take. But I was like, I definitely want to whistle on this record. Like I
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
at some point. I know it's random, but it was like a mental checklist of things that like are so out there. Um,
Yeah.
then and then some of the trumpets are actually me creating the sound with my, like, and so I know it sounds, we could do it on a keyboard, we could pay someone to do it,
Mhm.
but I just was having too much fun. I was so in the moment, and it was like 2 a.m. and I was just like, bro, let's just do trumpets right here. And he's like, we don't have a trumpet. I was like, I know, let's just do it.
Let's
So
just
Yeah.
do.
We'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out. So that's why when I look back in life, this is one of those records where it's just like, that was so unbelievable to create. And sorry I'm talking so much, but it was like,
It's the point.
a lot of times when your hobby becomes your passion, and then when your passion becomes your profession, you
Hmm.
kind of lose that, because
Yeah.
you kind of lose the fun and what made you so connected to music in the first place.
Hmm.
And that's when it starts to get, your stage show starts to get lethargic, and that's when you become like almost a caricature of the person you think other people want you to be. And
Hmm.
so this record for me was just kind of like, oh man, I remember why I got into music in the first place.
How special
That's
is
awesome to
that?
hear. Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Love
I'm
it.
curious about the timeline for the record. When the writing process started, when you had masters in hand, just to get a rough scope of how long this took.
Dude, this was insanity. Oh my gosh. So began to write this record about 2.5, 3 years ago. And because I moved back to Florida in 2020 from New Mexico, and that's where I kind of began the idea. But then it just permeated, and then I began the writing process. Well, we've been done with this record for almost 2 years. The problem
Wolf.
was, yeah, it's crazy. I I actually, I'll have to do some research, but Little Yachty came out with a record, and he kind of it's like had some Western vibes right in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that, and that, and it paired with New Mexico, and I'm trying to think of timelines, which that's what reminded me of the Little Yachty record.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But what happened was, I didn't want to get in the way of Amberlin.
Hmm.
I understood that we were releasing records, and then they were putting out some stuff with Maddie, and I just didn't want to feel like, oh, I'm capitalizing and I'm using you, and I never wanted them to feel like that, because I'm not. And I just wanted them to know that I was fully behind Amberlin, and
Mhm.
so I kept getting out of the way of their releases. "Hey, man, do you mind pushing it back? Hey, man, do you mind pushing it back?" And so finally, I was like, "Enough! I gotta
It
do
has
It's
this.
to
my
come
turn.
out. Yeah.
It's my turn. You
Yeah.
will stop releasing music now." And so
Yeah.
they're off tour, and this just felt like the moment. And since then, I would hear like Bayside put out like I don't want to call it a country record, but just more of like a Western themed record and I was
Mhm.
like, guys, I thought of this like, I just let me
Can't
put
keep
this
up.
out
Yeah.
Exactly.
before people are like, bro, you're ripping everybody off, and I
Mhm.
didn't want to get to that point. So I was just like, let me put it out. I'm
Yeah.
putting it out. Get out of my way. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, it's been 2 years. I've never sat on a record for 2 years. It just feels so weird. Uh, friends are like, "Oh, I heard you put out a new record." I was like, "Yeah, it's coming out." They're like, "I've heard all this," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
sent it
sent,
to
I
you
sent it
like a
to you.
year and a half ago."
Yeah, it's been
So
like 2 years.
yeah.
Damn.
So anyway, but there's a reason, there's a logic for everything. So I'm sure
Mhm.
it's supposed to come out when it comes out.
Mhm.
Exactly. So even with sitting on it for 2 years, are you still just as excited and ready for everyone to hear it, or is it just kind of like, I'm just ready for the next thing?
No, I love this record. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm sure every artist that has ever been on your podcast is like, bro, this is going to this is going to blow your mind.
Exactly.
And
It's the
this is
best
the
thing
best.
yet.
This is the best thing we have ever put out. Well, of course you have to say that. Secretly you're kind of like, it's like third or fourth place.
Yeah, it's like
But
fine.
it's fine. It'll subdue.
Okay.
It'll keep us on the label and the paycheck coming in.
You know what?
But this one was one of those things where I was so excited. I was just so excited. And so re-listening to the songs, and then when you have to go and do like things like artwork and it makes it, tying it all together and picking out the vinyl and doing all these things and test presses, it just reinvigorates.
Mhm.
And so I love it, and it's not old, and I'm not ready. I don't have a single song written for the next project, whether it's Amberlin, Anchor Braille. I have
Yeah.
nothing written,
Yeah.
and because I was always just so into this one, so
Mhm.
it's really great.
Hell yeah.
Gotcha. Time is now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Time is now.
So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah. So I moved to New Mexico when I left Amberlin in 2015. To be honest, there was part of me that just wanted to run away, and I think I see a lot of people when get into a band or acting or for you guys maybe podcasting, and then let's say like it blows up even bigger than it is and it's huge, you become Glory from this or Shane from this or Steven from this, like I
Mhm.
was Steven from Amberlin. And I felt like there were so many aspects of my life where like I was so tied into music. I didn't really know myself.
Mhm.
I didn't know my partner. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't know there's
Yeah.
so much to it. And there's something about being in the desert to where it's vast and it's lonely,
Mm.
and there's just something about nature, and that was some of the closest moments I've ever been to God, and that's the most I've been kind of like self-assessing, and I just felt in all of it, in the culture, in the people, I was allowed to be alone with my thoughts long enough to figure it out. And
Mhm.
so it really felt like, I mean, this record is kind of like a book on the 5 years that I spent there, and what life taught me, and I was just infatuated. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Southwest, but there's something so um, surreal.
Mm.
It's called, New Mexico literally is called Land of Enchantment, and for a
Mm.
reason. Like there's something inviting, but it just captivates you and keeps you there.
Yeah.
And so someday I'm going to go back and live. I love Florida for the time being. This is where my family is. My parents live close, and my brothers and families here. But there's going to come a season in life where I just want to go back there and stay forever. So
That'd be good.
it's definitely amazing.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
And then the cover art.
So for the cover art, um, I worked with an incredible design company called U Creative. And what we did is, this is a very, very unique proposition that that I have with them. And this is kind of the future of, I think, a lot of musicians, is the fact that we don't make money on Spotify. The release of this record is not going to make me any money, and nor do I. That's not my primary income anymore. But I'm talking about for every artist, and so I think that up and coming artists really need to get used to understanding the power of multiple streams of income.
Mhm.
No longer can you just sit by and expect to collect a check from the record label, because they're not making as much money. So neither are you. So now it's more than just t-shirts. It's also, there's publishing, and these are all standards and stuff like that. But now you have to start going beyond that, and you start looking for deals with clothing brands, and you have to start looking for deals with other types of companies and entities that can kind of formulate, and you guys can, coexist while both, pollinating brands. I think that's the future of music, is that someday soon we're going to have a vinyl where the front cover is the band and the back cover is an advertisement. And that's sad, and people are going to give them a hard time, and, oh, I can't believe you sold out to Converse or Nike or something like that. No,
Yeah.
that is the future of music. And so in trying to be creative with how I push and promote music, I went to the record label and just said, hey, listen, I have some good friends in You Creative, and they are, they've done everything from, modern bands, to Kiss, to Striper, to AC/DC. They've done a lot of stuff with branding, with brands and stuff like that. They don't really do a lot in music, and so I just said, listen, I'll trade you publishing off my record if you come up with all the creative art. So I can take that off my label's plate, so they don't have to pay for it. And so that'll free the label up to investing more money in things like making a really cool vinyl, or, paying a publicist. And so the label loved it. They were like, are you kidding? You're going to save us, tons of money off lyric videos and graphics and all that. And then I go to the, You Creative, and just say, take a chance on this record. If you like it, if you like the sound and the direction, and you like what I've done in the past, I'll give you part of the publishing if you take the graphic design aspect of it. And they loved it, because they're like, wow, like, no one's come to us with that kind of idea, that we are now in the publishing business. And so they were the one who kind of came up with a creative, I kind of gave them a design work, and I said, I didn't come up with the idea. What I'm just saying is, here's what I love about New Mexico. I love the culture. I love the colors. There's a taste, there's a feel to it. And here's some demos. And so combine all that. And so they kind of came up with this artwork that, that I feel like it draws it all together. It's not complicated. Neither is New Mexico, the state. You know what I'm saying? It's it's brash. It's like, throw red up there and then cut out a picture of a scorpion and just stick it on there, and that's it. And it's not lazy. That is very much New Mexico. It's not polished. It's what you see is what you get. And so I really feel like they caught what I was trying to attempt to do with not only the song title, but the artwork and the amalgamation of all that together.
Yeah. That is incredible. I've never heard of that being done before, but that sounds really interesting. I can't believe it.
I think more labels and more people should start doing it. I hope You Creative doesn't get like inundated with 54 bands trying to get the same deal. But I think that is what needs to happen, is people need to start figuring out how to cross-pollinate. Hopefully You Creative does get a few deals out there. They're phenomenal. But what I'm saying is, that's the future of music, is that you cannot rely on one label and one booking agent and to provide to pay your rent. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to happen. Bands have to grow. I think it's such a cool time of life, and that bands have to become multi-talented, even more than they've ever been, to try to figure out different and unique ways to not just survive, but how do I make this, a living? Like, how do, more bands need to start podcasts, and then also be content creators. And then also, you know what I'm saying? They've got to come out with a multitude of things. And that's a sad existence, but it's also a really cool challenge because those bands that figure it out are going to be massive, and
Yeah.
I think are going to have a longevity of career. And when they get out of music, are going to be so much better and more set up to win, because anything you do, I don't care if you're selling, insurance, or pottery, and you're making your own pottery, you're gonna, it's gonna have to, all of us are gonna have to become multifaceted in whatever we do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, that's why you guys are not just doing a podcast together, just you two. You're inviting artists to come in, because you
Mhm.
are hoping that they get their following and they get their follow, and then it just stacks.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
that's what's going to have to happen in music, is just
Yeah.
way more stacking in way different directions than ever before.
Exactly. A lot of cross-pollinating for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to figure that out. I mean, maybe there's a website. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe someone comes up and just like, hey, here's 10 brands that have been known to, send, we got to be on a label or have to have, touring experience, but send your, ideas to these 10, clothing companies. And then these guys will, it just, maybe someone comes up with a website that just figures out cross-pollination and takes a percentage of that deal that they're putting together.
God, that'd be great. See,
Yeah.
that is what we need.
Yeah.
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 Hell yeah.
Well, there you go, Glory. That's your idea. You and Shane take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll figure it out.
New revenue stream for the podcast.
Yeah.
Glory.
Xpollinate.com. So
Yeah.
you can get it cross-pollinate.
There you go. Done. Easy.
Done. There you go.
love it. So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for the album?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Chad Carruthers and I have been working together on about, I would say, the last 5 projects. Him and I just work really, really well together. And so he's done one of my Anchor and Braille records. The last 2 or 3 projects with Amberlin, he's been my guy. They can work with whoever they want, but I'm going to fly him in to be able to, to work with my vocals and stuff. And so, he's a prolific, not only producer, but musician as well. And so I just kind of gave him samples and just gave him writing and some basics and stuff like that. And then he can take it and create worlds within worlds, And so just handing it off to him as, and we just, he's my co-writer. Him and I split everything 50-50 as far as this Anchor Braille project, because he did so much exceptional work on it. And so then I kind of give him the idea. He kind of mixes it up and gives me the bass line of the music, and then he sends it back, and then I'll put lyrics and melodies on it. And then when we finally get a product, and what I mean by a product, like a finished song, we'll stack them. Then we'll listen to them all. We'll narrow it down, and then he'll record on his end all the music, and then I'll fly up to Nashville, and he'll fly down here to my studio in St. Pete, and then we will we'll do it together. We'll hash out the final, like I call it, like bells and whistles, and then like so and then also just the lyrics, not the lyrics so much as like the just singing it for the record. And a lot happens in the studio. It's not like, oh great, one take. He'll just be like, man, let's just scrap this and let's just retry it, and come back tomorrow with a different verse or something like that, or so there's a lot that still happens in the studio, but that's really a roundabout what happened, the experience of writing this record.
Gotcha. Makes complete sense.
Yep.
So what song off the album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
My favorite right off the bat is Rattlesnakes. I'm obsessed with that song. I think it's one of those things where everything just came together. I loved it, how it turned out. I love the lyrics, everything, just like the content, front to back. The longest to write was Sweet Jesus Knows. That it never felt finished to me. It always felt like, to be honest, what I discovered was that we were overproducing it. I really was hoping to be like, I wanted it to be like a punk rock band, like just real, like grimy early Elvis Costello, just yelling into a mic. And so finally what happened was, Chad came and joined me at the mic, and we just started yelling into the mic and then talking in between it.
Yeah.
And then he took it and then he cleaned it up. And I was like, bro, we just lost it. It sounds like a polished song. I want it to be grimy and gross, and we were just kind of like almost off put. And then when the chorus hits, it's so melodic and it's
Mhm.
so, and it makes you feel comfortable. And then you get back to this punk rock and you're like, oh, it's so unsettling.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I realized that the whole time we were just overproducing it and it needed to go back. And we literally went back to the first take and we're off timing, him and I singing it, and what he says in between and what I'm saying to him, what I'm yelling. I have no clue,
Yeah.
but it just felt so raw. It's so,
Yeah.
so disgusting. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's it. That is what, and let's throw everything else away. We're going to do it. That was the first take. We're keeping that. And so that's what took the longest, but we love the song so much. It starts the record. It's the
Of
first song
course,
on the
yeah.
record. Sweet Jesus knows. So it was so much that was a blast to that was so much fun to do, but it took the longest.
Oh, yeah.
Makes sense, goddamn.
Yeah. So how'd the track list for your album come about? Did you write the opener with the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around, see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, shuffled around to see what fits, and it took like 2 or 3 different times to, and we thought we had a final one, and then
Mhm.
I got the track listing back, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go print your record, like the vinyl today," and I
Yeah.
was like, "Wait, one more time. Let me go
Hold
listen.
on. Yeah, yeah,
Hang
yeah.
on. Let me go think this through." And so what was supposed to happen was it was going to be 2 EPs and then a full length.
Mhm.
And we just felt like after a while, number one, I was just tired of waiting. So I didn't want to I didn't want to, that would have been like another year for the record to actually come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm a little tired of waiting. But so initially we had 2 EPs and they were going to connect them. And I had written the track listing out with 2 EPs in mind. And now that it was one full album, I could space out. I could do a lot more with, and there was more moments to breathe.
Mhm.
I could put you into a lull and then bring it right back up.
Yeah.
And so it changed one last time the day that it was supposed to go off to pressing. So,
That's
but that's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the label was too happy about that. They were just like,
Yeah, I'm not
we
sure
had
either.
everything to go. And then I had to go back to the graphic and you creative and be like, bro, I'm so sorry, but
Yeah.
you
You
got to
gotta
change
read
the track. You got to
Yeah.
redo it. And because it just for the betterment of the record as a whole, you got to go do this again. And so
Yeah.
people weren't too happy, but I think that long term, it makes
Mhm.
the most sense.
It worked out. It
Yeah.
had to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't get much
Absolutely.
more down to the wire than that.
No,
Exactly.
sir. No, sir.
Goodness. So, would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating the record?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think pure excitement,
Mhm.
because again, going kind of back to, I don't want to be repetitious, but going back to the fact that I don't feel there's any limitations or boundaries, it makes music that much more fun. And
Mhm.
so in that space, you can sing about whatever you want. You don't have to feel like, man, what what did fans gravitate towards into the past? And do I need to re-sing that with a different phrasing? I mean, do they want me to sing about girls or relationships or
Mhm.
life? Like what is good? And I didn't have any of that. You know what I'm saying? So it was just all lyrics were just on limits. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Whatever you wanted to go. And so that adds an element, a spark of something different. And so I would say the headspace was exactly where I wish all artists were. And
Yeah.
if I had to go back in time and give myself a book early in my career, it's Rick Rubin's book that I was
Mhm.
reading during this, in which he was just basically saying what I'm saying, but much more poetic. And any artist should go read today. Um, it's just about kind of like surrendering to not what you think people want to hear, but what you are and who you
Mhm.
are. And
Yeah.
that's the music that will resonate the most, is coming from a
Mhm.
place of trying to make music for music
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
not trying to make it for anyone else and trying to live up to any expectation. Because
Mhm.
as soon as you do that, you put expectations, that's the lid, that's the cap of where your
Yeah.
art can go. And I love that. I just wish I would have read that a decade ago. He just put out the book a couple of years ago, but I wish I would have read that. He would have sent me a dance copy like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but it's the headspace where I felt like I was for this record, was just like no headspace.
Yeah.
Just do
Yeah.
whatever.
And that's great. That is so wonderful and refreshing to hear. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, please go read that book. For anyone that calls themselves an artist, I think it's not a hard read, it's not a long read,
Mhm.
but it's beautifully poetic.
Love it.
Wonderful.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should you in the car with friends and dark with headphones on? Is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
Yeah, the first time, and I know it's 2025, but you have to listen to it all the way through, or I just don't think you'll get it.
Yeah.
And I know that's a time commitment. That's like 30 minutes because we're such an ADHD.
Attention
We're just
spans.
like playlist, you know. And I think the first time, if you really want to get the record, you got to listen to it all the way through. And then from there, I think this is the perfect album to have on in the background at like a hangout with a bunch of friends. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it can be sit in the background as kind of like almost an aesthetic piece to your house. You know what I'm saying? It's just playing on the speakers, you know, with lo-fi, you know, with a bunch of people just talking and mingling and hanging out. But if you really want to hear it for what it was you know, the intentionality of it all, if you really want to go, because I think if you just hear one song, if you just heard like, it would just feel out of context. You're just like, why? Why is this spaghetti Western indie rock, you know, like, because I don't even but in the entirety of the movie, you know, I know, pick any movie and just, you know, pick a random time, you know, 30 to 35 minutes. You're just gonna be like, I have no clue the plot or the plan. Oh yes, I'm so lost. Where are we right now? But if you listen to it all the way through, I think you'd be like, oh my gosh, I get it. And then I can understand the quote-unquote singles for what they were intended to be. And so, yeah, that's my spiel.
All right.
Hell yeah. I completely agree. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Oh my gosh. I just said 3 words. Oh my gosh. I think if you categorize it in genre, just spaghetti Western indie. But as far as like, for me, I would just say passion project fulfillment. You know, like this is because that's super selfish. I know that's egocentric. I know that's all about me. But at the end of the day, I think I wrote this record more for me than anyone else. And but I think that at those moments, I think that's when people can cling on the most. You know what I'm saying? When they can hear like, oh, this is how I feel like I'm jumping inside someone's brain and hearing the internal dialogue. And that's what this record is for me.
Yeah, and we talk about it a lot on here with artists. Like, there's no need to pander to people and what they want to hear, because, you know, they'll see right through it. And the authentic stuff where people can see that it's genuinely you and what you're feeling and what you want to say is when it's going to resonate the most with people.
I totally agree. You know, someone once said, I wish I could take credit for it, but they said, write a song for one person and you'll reach 1,000. Write a song for 1,000 people and you'll reach no one. And I love that. And I look back in the history of like the deepest, the biggest #1 songs in America that I've written are so personal. And you know what I'm saying? Like just opening up my life. And I can't believe I just told everybody this story about me and this other person. And that I think people can cling to and be like, no, because I felt that before. I just couldn't put a word to it. I couldn't put a definition on that, and you just did. And I've experienced that. And you're singing me my own experience, and then they can gravitate towards that. So I totally agree with that, Shane.
Oh yeah. So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
Yeah, like just restless ambition, like just let's go conquer the world. Like give me, a motorcycle or some, let's just go take over the world. Like that's how I envision it, like just, whether it's a horse or like a Camaro, I don't care, but you and a friend and you just are just driving cross country. You know what I'm saying? Let's just go, let's get in the car and just be absolutely as free, relentlessly free as possible. Just restless, but in a fun, lighthearted way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just not going cross country to beat somebody up. Just
driving. No.
just driving across country because you can, just because you can be. There's a part of life in which you have the liberty to be wild and free and just embracing that. And I think that, I had a friend who from here in Florida, and before he was like 25 when he finally ventured west of Georgia. And I was like, what the heck? And sometimes I think it's not just him. I think sometimes we get so comfortable in our little confines of what we know.
Yeah.
We forget that it's a huge world out there. You know what I'm saying? And we can, for a season of life, not every time, but it's okay sometimes just to be irresponsible. It's okay because in those wild and free moments, those are the stories you tell. In those moments, those are stories you tell.
Yeah.
And so that this record is kind of like exemplifies when you look over at your friend and just say, dude, screw it, let's just go. And that's the moment where you push play on Sweet Jesus Knows, straight out the blue chamber. And that's the moment you hit the car and you just go. That's what I want people to feel.
God, that got me hyped up. That got me going. That's
good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well,
I'm ready for a cross-country road trip. Yeah.
Do it. Why not? You know what I'm saying?
Why not? You're right. Exactly.
If not now, when? If not now, this is
That's
it.
what I'm saying. Exactly. That's how I justify all my little trips. Because I'm like, not now, when?
Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
I mean, the negative, just the amount of time that, I'm saying, that this took was painstaking. I mean, it did allow me to reflect and refine, which I think adds to the record, especially like I got to spend more time on this artwork than perhaps anything since Cities with Amber Lynn. And so it allowed me time, but there's a lot of frustration in waiting, knowing that you're sitting on something you're so passionate about. And then, so that would be the hardest part of this process.
Gotcha. Completely fair.
And for this last question, I want you to picture you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Yeah, this is so bad, and I don't recommend this, and I never eat this.
Okay.
It's so gross.
Oh no.
But those little donuts, those little, chocolate covered donuts.
Oh, yeah. They're like the Edmontons.
Yeah. That and a coffee. And that's the breakfast. Now, at no other point in life do I eat that. It's not like I'm home off tour. But if I'm on tour and the bus has stopped and we are at a gas station and it's like 6 a.m., I am getting those stupid donuts because they're just so good. And you just sit there. You got like 3 more hours on the bus and you're just staring out the window with a coffee and donut.
See, you were hyping it up like you were gonna unleash some awful, horrible. Like I have 5 gas station hot dogs, and I'm like,
hot burger.
Exactly, hot burger.
Yes, something. No, I know, but if you knew me, people would be like, "All right, he eats that crap," So
okay.
Yes. I try to be more healthy, but those moments I'm like, dude, I can't resist this. This is
exactly. It's a little treat.
It's the perfect pair. Yes.
There you go. Treat yourself.
Well, as I said, that's all the questions you have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
No, Shane, thanks so much for letting me plug. This whole thing has just been just allowing me to share my excitement for this record. So, please go check out New Mexico anywhere you listen to music.
Oh yeah.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you, Styles. Been Steven from Anchor and Braille, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.